just like that, as we always do, we ended up just where we're supposed to be. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Creative on Purpose Live, conversations about making a better living and a bigger impact by defining, developing, and delivering the difference only you can make. I'm Scott Perry, Chief Difference Maker at Creative on Purpose with a really bad cold. My apologies. If you're looking to get clearer about who you really are so you can get closer to what you really want in life, visit Creative on Purpose today to get started playing your game on your terms without compromise. Let's meet today's guest. Janet, welcome to the broadcast. Please tell our viewers who you are, what you're up to these days, and where can people go to learn more about you and the difference you're making.
Thanks, Scott. I'm Janet Bartoli, and what I've been up to, I would say it's sort of a two-part. I've been entrenched in search engine marketing for the last 20 years. What I've been up to lately, I've been really focused heavily on a specific audience who seems to have been forgotten when it comes to digital marketing, which is the staffing and recruiting industry. So I've been working with them on really developing and crafting an inbound marketing strategy. They're really geniuses when it comes to outbound, but when it comes to the inbound, that's really where they need the help. So I've been really supporting them there.
Awesome. And you can learn more about what Janet is up to on her website, mycandidatepipeline.com. Janet, I'm always curious about how people came to be doing the work that they're doing. I doubt that 9-year-old Janet woke up one morning and said, you know what I want to be when I grow up? So give us a little sense of how you came to be doing what you're doing today.
Well, you're right, because there was mainframe computers, I think, when I was 9, but maybe not where we are now. True. I think the biggest way to say it is I've always really appreciated technology, even back, if you go even back in the 80s. Atari was a piece of technology that was a lot of fun. Anything like that was always of interest to me. I did do, high school, I did go into computers, computer science. I did have a tech support background. So I do have sort of that IT background. So back in the early 2000s, I started a business, a consultancy, where I was just building websites for small business owners. And I niched it to women, small business owners in particular, because at the time, and I don't know how much of it is true now, but at the time, there were a lot of women business owners who weren't really trusting of the typical maybe 20-something-year-old dude who, was probably trying to sell them on some maintenance package or a website build. So I thought that would be the best way to kind of say, hey, as a woman business owner, I can help you. And so we would we would work together from there. I created workshops where I would sort of like do presentations and teach them. It then really snowballed from there. I then decided to broaden my reach. So I worked within a digital marketing agency to get a lot more experience with a lot bigger brands. Over the course of years, one fun fact, when I was at Accenture for 5 years, I got to live and work in Italy for 9 months, helping Fiat build their search marketing platform across 8 different countries. So it's, as I said, it really has snowballed, and it's been a lot of fun. I can definitely say in my industry, it's ever evolving and challenging. Google search is not the same as it is, today as it was 20 years ago, for sure.
Yeah. Well, what I love about that story is that you saw an audience that had a problem that you could help them solve, and you simply decided to help them, and you kind of figured it out as you went. And our mutual friend Laurel Portier was on a call on this broadcast yesterday or the day before, and we were talking about this very thing. Like, what you have to do as a consultant or a coach is not help people solve situations, because solving a situation is the side effect of solving the next necessary problem that needs to be solved. And so I also love the way that you started niching down right away, helping women business owners, an underserved market, I'm sure, at that time. So that's really fascinating. And what you're doing now, if I was hearing it right, is you're helping businesses build better teams. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. building better teams, better strategies, all with the goal of, and for this, it's always been when I'm working with clients, is how do we improve your business over time? And then after having that experience with the large brands, I always come back to the smaller business. I have a special soft spot in my heart for the small business who is really just trying to make things work. And they don't necessarily have a goal of becoming a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but they're just trying to make something happen.
Mhm.
And that's really why I've taken all of experience, come back full circle, back to working with them again. But it's now taking all those experiences and helping them. So yes, building strategic teams internally. Also, my agency, we have people that if they don't want to build an internal team, we can basically become their fractional team and then just kind of build in alongside them. Building different digital marketing programs, whether it's paid or organic, and anything having to do with inbound. So, adding a live chat feature to their website or email marketing or anything that's going to help reach their prospective clients and then engage them through conversions.
Nice. Well, so what I'm hearing is that you have 2 ways they can go. They can do a done with you program where you're a trusted guide helping them put things in place
Yes.
that they need, or a done for you where they could just hire you and your team, and you can work that part of their business that maybe allows them to put more of their energy and effort and attention into doing what they
Mhm.
do best. When you're working with, when you are starting to negotiate and connect with and have conversations with the businesses that you work with. What do you see as the primary, like, is there a theme or a repeated pattern of the kind of situations, problems that they have that you see kind of happening
Mhm.
over and over again?
Yeah, and I would say that really pretty much blanket across the board, whether it's a very large corporation, like Verizon, for example, or a very small, locally owned business, the same problem is we don't have a strategy and we don't know where to start from. And we don't know, being everywhere, is that really something we should be doing? Where should we start from? So that's that, as I said, it's across the board. It doesn't matter the size of the company. That's always the number one problem. Then it's just a matter of having the conversation. Almost it's overwhelming to them, which it certainly is. And then it's just having a conversation with them about here's what we can do. What ultimately is your goals and objectives for the business? That's really what it comes down to. Um, there are so many SEO freelancers that are talking about keywords or the backlinks. Like no business owner cares about the number of backlinks they ever acquire, because what is that at the end of the day from a revenue perspective? Um, Mostly it's not. So it may be vanity stuff, but we want to get to sales and leads is really what every business needs.
Yeah, well, I love that you shared that oftentimes businesses don't know where they're starting from, because literally just an hour ago, I posted on my social media this idea of, if how can you get where you really want to go if you don't know where you're really starting from? How can
Mhm.
you become the person you want to be if you don't know who you are right now? A Google map requires a specific destination, but it also has to have a clearly defined starting point in
Mhm.
order to create that vector and then troubleshoot, iterate, and strategize your way from where you are to where you want to be. And I think that humans are, it doesn't matter if it's business or in your personal life or your family life, we are aiming creatures. We love to put a point on the horizon and say
Mhm.
that's where I'm going to go. But we're not as good at. In fact, we're often complicit in getting in our own way because we don't see where we are really starting from. But also, we are not really good at seeing all of the biases,
Mhm.
beliefs, false beliefs um, that impede our ability to even start.
Mhm.
So how do you help? How do you help this? How do you help navigate that in the businesses that you work with
Mhm.
in terms of how do you help them see, hey, I get that you want to be here, but let's find out where you are now so we can chart that course?
It again, if there's a difference in the size of the business in terms of the response you're going to get. I mean, if you're talking about a very large corporation, the response is we have some historical data we can share with you. They don't necessarily have understood it or looked at it. And so I will then, always come back to them. What does this mean to you? There's this conversation. If it's the other end, a smaller business, let's say, trying to get to the seven figures, then there could be other things like, limited beliefs around who they think that they can be. Oh, there's no way I could possibly be a 7+ figure, a business owner. There's no way that I can do that. Or I don't necessarily, I'm not interested in growth, which is always an interesting statement as a business. So maybe they're just happy with getting referrals. It just says to me that they're not thinking of themselves as what they could potentially become, just like as you were saying. Really, it's a matter of just stop, take a break, and figure out, what is it, the purpose of this business? Like, what are you trying to achieve ultimately? And if you put a timeline on it, it may not be fair to say in the next 5 or 10 years, it should look like this. Just how about the next year, or the next, quarter? What is it that I'm trying to accomplish? And then work up to that. But you're right. There are many times they don't know, if you're going to get to, if you're going to start, looking at a map, you have to know where your destination is. You don't go to an airport and just get a ticket to anywhere. Although that might be a fun thing to do.
Yeah, there's always a time and a place for a little serendipity. I just want to give a shout out to my friend Cato, who's watching and appreciates this. What contributes to missing, seeing where you are or where that is, and I think you really addressed that beautifully. And one of the things I loved about the way you started that answer is you gave the answer to every complicated question. It depends, right? It's so what I love about the way that you approach this, where a big box agency might say, here is the solution. We have a bespoke system, a signature framework. We're going to cram you through it. You'll get out the other side where you want to be. And if you don't, it's probably your fault for not having the right mindset, or you're not following directions or whatever. But what you're saying is, the needs, wants, dreams, and desires of a small business are different than a big business. And the other thing that you were speaking to is an idea that we call micro stepping. It's like, yes, we want to have a vision for where we want to be 5, 10, 20 years from now. But the most important thing is, what's the next thing? Like, do the right things in the right order, in the right or at the right time, and you will make progress. And I love also that you talked about pausing, zooming out, and like, let's collect the data, let's analyze, and then strategize and execute the next best step based on the information, the logic, reasoning, et cetera, that we have. So I think that's all really powerful. What do you find? Is it frequent that there's some resistance to this kind of slow is smooth, but smooth is fast approach that you're advocating with the people you work with?
Not really. Well, again, thinking about who is that person. I love working with clients that are very open-minded in terms of like, I have no idea what to expect. That's great, because now your expectations are set so low. Now let's kind of build from there, and what we can accomplish together, rather than maybe a prospective client who comes at me and says, I want this, and in this way. So you're basically telling, somebody to, it's different. If you want somebody to build you a house, you have an architect, this is how many bedrooms I need. This is the square footage. That's one thing. But when you're talking about customizing a digital marketing strategy, there's a lot of other knowledge that you should have, in terms of what it is that you should expect. Are you going to have this, if you start anything like social media, I mean, if you just get on a platform, you shouldn't expect to get on TikTok, although maybe you could, and then in 3 days get 1,000 followers, perhaps. But again, that's such a new platform with a relatively new algorithm. But if you're on any other platform, you have to understand what the expectations are. But even pull back from that, where are the people that you're wanting to work with? I mean, are they hanging out there? And if so, go for it. I'm predominantly in LinkedIn because the people I speak to are staffing and recruiting. Those people live in LinkedIn. So that's where I am most of my time.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that. It actually speaks to the book I just published, The Coaching Business Prescription, which is like, and it's really, even though the book targets coaches, the fundamental principles apply to any business. What do you need first? Well, you need to have an offer that is irresistible enough that you can put in front of an audience that's eager enough. And then you have to have the strategy for how you're going to put that offer in front of that audience. And if you're not clear enough on those three things, you can waste a lot of time and burn out very quickly trying to be on TikTok and Instagram and all the places that maybe you don't belong,
Mhm.
where your audience doesn't even exist. Um, and it's, what I hear you advocating is let's dial in let's dial in the fundamentals and reason from first principles and figure out like what has to be put into place, and then what's the next step for each of those things. And I love that reference you made to the business that says, well, here's what I want. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, why are you hiring me? Well, like, why don't you just do that? And I imagine that that's, human beings are fascinating creatures. We love our beliefs and our biases, and we like to think that we know ourselves much better than we do. How do you how do you navigate that conversation where someone's saying, "I want this, this, and this," and you're seeing that actually you don't need that, that, and that. You need to collect some data here,
Mhm.
here, and here.
Mhm. Well, so way back when I did get started, I would let the client pretty much lead me. And that's a mistake that I was making at the time, thinking they know their business best. This is what they said they wanted. Now I'm going to try and shoehorn something into creating some kind of a Frankenstein strategy plan for them and hope it works, now in the recent years, it's pretty much I will interview them and have a discovery call to really understand a lot and then construct a strategy that's not a cookie cutter, just like you were saying before. I'm just going to, crank this out. This is going to work for you. But every business is unique and every business is different. What you specialize in, what your unique value proposition is, all of those things requires a specific, unique plan. So after I interview them and then say, well, basically, if I heard you correctly, this is what you're looking for, and this is the strategy that we've developed tactically. This is what we're going to do to make sure that we can kind of meet or exceed all of your KPIs or the success metrics that you shared with me. And then we'll just keep tracking that. Then it's important to have an ongoing monthly measurement call where we're talking about, again, here's the strategy. This is what we agreed on, and this is how we're tracking. And then when they start seeing it working, then they really pull back and then say, okay, I guess she knows what she's talking about. So let me just like I'll take my hands off the steering wheel and then just let us go. So that always works the best.
Yeah, I love that. I was just having a conversation with my friend Viveka, who's a data analyst, and you know, I know how important data is, and I know that you should be making data-driven decisions. I freaking hate collecting data, analyzing data, and planning around data. But like most coaches and consultants, I get really enamored of the tactical things and
Mhm.
the tools. Like, oh, this person says that if I get on, like, execute this Instagram strategy, I'll get more calls. Or this person says if I'm only one funnel away from getting, the business of my dreams. And Um, the thing that I notice, and I'm curious about your perspective on this, is again, human beings have a default programming for collecting more. We like to collect stuff. We like to collect dots. And the problem with collecting dots is if you are creating a system to help you close the gap between where you are and where you want to be, everything that you add to that system is decreasing the effectiveness and efficiency of that system, because system reliability theory says that when you multiply the percentage of effectiveness, efficiency of each component, you're going to drive it down the more. So oftentimes, what I find is I have to help clients see all the things that we actually need to prune. Like we need to take
Mhm.
this, and this out. And here are the three things that if we get right enough, will start to get us some traction, and then we can work on raising the floor. But again, human beings, we like our shiny things. We like to
Mhm.
chase the next shiny object. So, is that something that you find true with the people you're working with? And
Mhm.
how do you help them? If so, how do you help them stop chasing impressions and instead do the thing they need to do to make an impact?
Mhm. Well, so one of the things I tell them to do is stop using tools you shouldn't be using. For example, if if you're an accountant, why are you would you have an SEM Rush account or an Ahrefs account and you're tracking your keywords? Like, what is that really doing? And do you even know what you're doing? Well, I mean, you're looking at keywords to see where you're ranking is completely meaningless, especially in 2023. So what I tell them is just stop all they'll tell me, "Oh, I have a subscription to these." I'm like, "Well, we do too." That's what, you don't basically I like to use different metaphors or analogies, and it's kind of like, if you have, let's say, an HVAC system issue in your home, do you go get your toolbox out and start hacking through things, trying to figure it out, or do you just call up that person and say, "Hey, can you come on over and take a look? I'm having some issues with my heating system." It is like that, or like a doctor. I mean, if you have a pain, do you immediately start surgery on yourself? I mean, you have to go see specialists and say, "Hey, this is kind of what I'm noticing. Are there anything you can do to help me out?" Then we have to do diagnostics and understand what's the root cause of this and prescribe a specific solution to remedy that. And that's no matter what business you're in. It's like if that's not your specialty or your core competence, why are you involving yourself into it? So back off, find a subject matter expert, hire them in, and have them take it over. And then that's how you're going to grow your business faster, by just leveraging other people's more genius and getting them to take those tasks off your plate. So it's a number of things. It helps me with my team be able to help my client, but it also helps them as a business owner just to, relax. We got this. You go do something else.
Right. Yeah. Well, as a dude, of course, I'm gonna grab the tools and rip right into the HVAC system. Not a good idea, don't recommend it, but, um, yeah, I really appreciate that, that analogy because you you ha that's the beauty of working with a small agency or a coaching consultant that is looking for to create a bespoke prescription for your unique situation, and the unique problems that you need to solve so that as a side effect of addressing those, your situation, will be solved, and whereas most of the gurus in the digital marketing space or the big box companies, consultancies, they're just going to cram you through a system
Mhm,
that works for them and a couple of their clients, thinking that so that becomes a prescriptive solution.
mhm,
What every client needs is a prescription. Well, as our time is winding up here, Janet, I always the last question is, and you've delivered a ton of wisdom and some golden nuggets of insight that will help anybody that is seeking to fly a little bit higher in the difference only they can make. But if you were to share just one final, it could be a principle, a
mhm.
lesson, a maxim that would help someone actually take the next best step into their potential and possibility to make the difference only they can make, what would you share with them?
Well, just as we were saying, I think really focusing in on what it is. If you look at a 90-day, which, yes, our friend Laurel has taught us that as well, just looking at 90 days and focusing only in on what those core goals are, then even the podcasts you listen to, if they're talking about things that have nothing to do with what you're trying to focus on for that quarter, I usually just stop, I pause those, and then focus in only on the content that I need at that time. Anytime a new offer or something comes your way, if it has nothing to do with your core goals for that quarter, push it off to the side. And I think that helps keep you on track and on your target for that 90-day period of time. And also step away. I like to get out, go for a long run. You have some of the best ideas that you just come up with when you're outside and just getting away from your office. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, well, no, I think it really does because our again, a lot of the gurus are telling us it's all out the hustle and grind. Probably not.
No.
So I appreciate that. Well, we thank you all for tuning in, Janet, and I really appreciate the gift of your time and attention. And we hope that today's broadcast motivates you to take a bolder step into possibility, to keep going with defining, developing, and delivering the difference only you can make. Go to creativeonpurpose.com. If you're watching on social media or YouTube, please leave a question or drop your biggest aha lesson or takeaway from this conversation. If you're listening as a podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and a review. It really helps more of the right people connect with the wisdom being shared by my guests. Now, take the insight and inspiration from this conversation and play your game all in and full out. Janet, thank you so much for sharing some of your time, experience, and wisdom with us today.
Thanks so much, Scott. It was really fun to be here.